All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another RDU Buzz podcast where we go over all things real estate, recreation, and restaurants in the Raleigh and Durham area. Hope you all had a good week so far. If you're local, I hope you enjoyed the snow. We actually still have a lot of snow in our yard. I've driven pretty much all over the triangle over the last several days this week. And for whatever reason, our side of town just got hammered. I shouldn't say hammered. It's really not that much snow, but in comparison with what other folks got, it's pretty substantial. Like our kids could literally this morning. I'm filming this on Tuesday. No, Wednesday. I'm sorry, Wednesday. Literally, our kids could have still gone sledding today. I mean, it's just crazy how much snow we got compared to other areas, and just how much slower it is to melt on our side of town. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Tonight, we're going to kick it off with quite a bit of real estate topics. We're going to deal a lot with different inventory pieces that are coming out for just local inventory, state level inventory, national level inventory, and kind of talk about what we're seeing in the market in terms of housing inventory. And then we'll finish it up with some local stories at the end. But if you are joining, make sure to put in the comments where you're joining from. Obviously, this is not live, so we're not going to be able to reply to those live, but it is helpful to know where folks are joining from. If you're joining local, if you're joining from out of state, it just kind of helps us prepare topics as we go on. But anyway, so digging into the first topic, I'm going to share my screen because I really want y'all to be able to see some of these charts because I think they're really fascinating. So Resi Club, which is an organization owned by a gentleman named Lance Lambert. He's I guess like a datitician, if that's a position that puts together basically housing data. He used to work for Fortune and write articles for them, but he owns his own organization now called Resi Club. And he puts out a ton of great data in terms of the housing market. And this chart right here, so this is active housing inventory for sale compared to pre-pandemic levels. So he's taking December of 2019, which was pre-pandemic, and comparing it to December 2024 and seeing what the difference is. North Carolina, which is obviously the state that I care about the most because that's where we live, is still 17% off as a whole from where we were pre-pandemic levels. That's still a substantial amount. However, in the chart I'm going to show you here in a second, you'll see how quickly we're gaining on that, right? And it's pretty substantial. But if you look at this, there's quite a few states out there that are now some well above where they were pre-pandemic levels. You've got places like Texas, you've got places like Florida, you got places like Arizona. Some of that's going to test my my knowledge of which state is which, but places like Tennessee that really are well above where they were pre-pandemic levels. We're dealing with a lot of folks who are moving from the state of Florida to our area, and it's a tough state right now to sell in. It's really challenging, and that inventory amount being 17% higher than what it was pre-pandemic level, at least higher than December 2019, is a lot of the reason for the difficulty of selling. There's just more choices for buyers. There's less buyer demand in general. But North Carolina, we're still below where we were at the pre-pandemic level. So obviously this is a state number. That's not a local number. We're going to deal with local numbers here in a bit. But if you look at where we were, this is an article that Lance Lambert put together in July. So July of last year. So he was comparing July of 2019 to July of 2024. And look at where we were then. We were 30% under pre-pandemic levels as far as how many homes for sale, what our inventory levels were. 30% in July, and we've gained enough inventory to be roughly at 17%. So we've almost cut that in half. It's going to be interesting to see if that trend continues this year, if we keep seeing inventory slowly build, because that is a trend that we noticed last year. Inventory in general as a whole last year was better than it was in 2023. And that's a good thing. We need more inventory in our market, um, because we're still well below where we were. So what about local? What about local data? Because that's ultimately what matters. So if you're looking, I've got Holly Springs pulled up here, but let's just go to the entire MLS. So if you're looking at the entire MLS, and I know it's probably tough to see on your screen, but December of 2024, there were 7,500 homes for sale. So that was our inventory level. In December of 2019, there were 10, or sorry, that was November. In December of 2019, there were 9,162 homes for sale. So, I mean, you're talking, what is that, a 1,500 difference in homes for sale. So that's, when I averaged it out, that is about 17%. So this is about a 17% difference. And that's the MLS as a whole. And our MLS is pretty large at this point. It includes a lot of different areas that are beyond just your typical, like what you think of when you think of the triangle, like your Raleighs or your Durhams or your Chapel Hills or your Careys. It extends pretty far out into the edges. And so even this, yes, we're kind of in line with what the state levels look like as far as 17% below what we were pre-pandemic. But and if you bring this down even more locally, that's when it gets really interesting. So if you were to put like a let's put Cary in here, because Cary's one of the craziest ones. So in December of 2024, 158 homes for sale in Cary. That's all types of homes. That's all types of construction. That's everything. 158. If you were to go to December of 2019, 526 homes for sale in December of 2019. We're roughly 70% less in Cary today than when we were pre-pandemic. That's astounding. So the region as a whole, when you look at the triangle as a whole, the triangle MLS is about 17% lower inventory levels than when we were pre-pandemic. But when you really like look at the specific towns and cities, so you always hear the saying, real estate is local, like hyper local, and it is, and that's the reason why. Because you can look at a region, you can look at a state and be like, okay, we're catching up when it comes to inventory. But then you look at a place like Cary, it's like, holy cow, like 526 homes were for sale in December 2019, and 158 were for sale this past December. Like that's not, I mean, it's not even comparable. And when you look at places like Apex is another one, right? 128 homes for sale, December 2024, December 2019. 498. It's a pretty big difference. When you put in Holly Springs, this was the biggest difference that I saw. That's why Holly Springs was pulled up when we first started this. There we go. Holly Springs. Look at Holly Springs, 67 for sale, December 2024. When you go to December 2019, 310. I think when I calculated that, was like 80% less roughly of what was for sale in 2019, which is just crazy. So anyway, like inventory levels have improved. Yes, 100%. Because you've got places like a Fuquay, for example. A Wendell is another example, where inventory is better than what it was pre-pandemic levels. You've got other places where it's kind of even, like it's a little bit closer. Raleigh is tracking kind of within that 17-20% range difference between what it is now and pre-pandemic. And so you've got some areas that are somewhat healthy when it comes to inventory. You've got some areas that are slowly catching up to where we were pre-pandemic levels. And then you've got areas like the Careys, the Apexes, the Holly Springs that are just nowhere close to where they were pre-pandemic. And that is why, at the end of the day, Chapel Hill was another one where there was a pretty large difference between where we were pre-pandemic and where we are now. But that's why, at the end of the day, those areas, one, they're seeing substantial price growth, and two, they're seeing substantial competition. Like when you look at the areas in our region that are seeing the most price growth, it kind of it kind of corresponds with the inventory levels that we're seeing. The less inventory, and typically the more competition that you have for those properties within that area. So that southwest side of Raleigh, the Carys, the Apexes, the Holly Springs is just getting hit really hard when it comes to the inventory side of things. So there was an article. What kind of led me down this trail was there was an article put out by Housing Wire that had a sentence in there that said, we used to hold homes for 7 years, and now we're starting to see folks hold homes for 10 years. And so all of that is impacting this, right? People are staying in homes for longer. Some of that has to do with rates, right? Like there is a legitimate, what they call lock-in effect, where rates are impacting sellers putting their homes on the market. That's a real thing, and it's a thing that we're seeing in our area. And places like Cary, where there's not a ton of new construction, really have to have a strong resale market. And if sellers are reluctant to put their homes on the market, they're really going to struggle when it comes to inventory. So a lot of this is rate driven. We're just seeing folks stay in their homes for longer. So hopefully this year, I think as a region as a whole, we're going to see inventory levels improve. I think on a national level, we're going to see inventories improve. I think on a state level, we're going to see inventory levels improve. But we really need to see it improve in places like Cary, Apex, and Holly Springs. Those are the markets that truly need to see inventory really begin to rebound to a more healthy level. And that's yet to be seen whether we'll see a lot of significant growth in that in 2025. But in general, I mean, inventory does a lot to the market, because if you have healthy buyer demand, or even a significant amount of buyer demand, but you also match that with a significant amount of inventory, it can be a pretty steady market for folks, because there's enough homes to go around. Competition isn't as fierce as it would be in a lower level or lower inventory level. And it's just overall it's a good market. And so you do want to see those inventory levels improve for folks. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We did see in the market, we did see mortgage rates spike. Actually, I haven't checked them since Monday. Okay, they've come back down just slightly, but there was a jobs report that came out at the end of last week that just showed a lot more growth than folks were anticipating. I think the expectation was around 155,000 jobs, and it just blew it out of the water. And obviously, the market reacted to that. And mortgage rates reacted to that, and we saw a pretty significant spike in mortgage rates as a result of that. I think they got up just a little bit over 7.2, but they're down now to 7.1. So not a big difference there, but obviously rates do play into this. So but yeah, that is the inventory update. I am hopeful this year that as a whole we'll see inventory improve. We'll see more homes hit the market. Sellers can't be in their homes forever, right? Like there has to be movement at some point. And I think the longer rates are kind of at this higher point, the more people realize they're not going back down into the fours. We got to move on with life. And part of that involves moving, selling your house, opening up some of that inventory. So yeah, it'll be interesting. That is the real estate update that I wanted to cover. There are some local stories. There's a handful of really good local stories I'm gonna save for next week. But one that I wanted to cover, I thought was kind of interesting. There was a traffic study done by TomTom. I didn't even know. I remember. I think TomTom is the like the old school GPS system that you would have in your car. I haven't seen those things in forever. But they do an annual traffic study, and I'm going to share my screen so you can see this too, because one of the questions we get a lot and for good reason, is what is the traffic like in the Raleigh area? And I always tell folks it's very subjective, very subjective. So if you're coming from Los Angeles, you're not going to see any issues with traffic here. You're going to find the traffic to be honestly pretty light. You're probably going to say, where is your traffic? Because you don't have any. If you're coming from a rural area, you're going to struggle with the traffic here. It's going to feel very congested. And you're going to struggle with it in general. But TomTom does an annual study every single year looking at the traffic throughout the country. North Carolina made the list a couple times, so it ranks places where the commute is not all that bad. Raleigh was down here at number 26 on the list, which actually really isn't that bad because there's a lot of cities. I think there were 90 cities that were ranked on here. Raleigh did, however, gain some seconds on the list from the last time this study was done. So it looks like the average commute is 10 minutes, 24 seconds, which is 9 seconds higher than it was last time this study was done. And you've got some other, obviously Phoenix. Phoenix is a pretty large city, Fort Worth, Texas. So you've got some pretty substantial cities on here. There's a few North Carolina cities that are near the top of the list. Winston-Salem is one of those. High Point is one of those. So obviously we live in the Triangle, which is the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area. To the west of us is what's called the Triad, which is Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and High Point. And the Triad is experiencing significant growth right now as well. And it's kind of situated perfectly. You've got Charlotte down kind of on the southern side. You've got the Triad here, and then you've got the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area over here. So it's kind of like situated perfectly between Charlotte. So it makes a really good location. Like if you have one spouse that works in the Charlotte area, one spouse that works kind of in like the Durham area. And it's just more affordable in general. It's more affordable than Charlotte region. It's more affordable than our region. We've had quite a few clients who start looking here and they end up in the Triad just because what they're looking for is much easier to come by in that region. But so those two areas really kind of blew Raleigh out of the water. But Raleigh as a whole, 26 out of 90 is not that bad. I think objectively the traffic here compared to other metros in the United States is really not bad. But there are sections of the area that just get really congested really quickly and get really annoying to drive on, especially during that rush hour time. So, but anyway, I thought this was worth talking about, especially that we saw a 9 second growth in from the last time it was done. There was a pickleball facility opening up in Johnston County. I love when things open up in Johnston County. I just think that side of town. So Johnston County, part of Garner is in Johnston County. Clayton is in Johnston County. And there's just so much residential that's going on in that side of town. And in my opinion, historically, not enough commercial to sustain that residential. So anytime something gets announced for Johnston County, something like a Walmart or a Target or something like this pickleball facility, I just think it's great. Like Johnston County deserves stuff like this. This is called Pickles and Play. I'm going to pull up their website. It looks to be like a local company. This is obviously the Greensboro one. Go back to the main page. Pickles and Play. I think I was reading there's like seven or 8 courts in these, but they've got locations. They got Wake Forest, Chapel Hill, Garner, Briar Creek. I think the Greensboro is not open yet. That's why I pulled up the Greensboro one, but the Garner one is the one that is in Johnston County. So, I've never gotten into pickleball. I've heard it's addictive. I've heard it's amazing. Maybe as our kids get older, it'll be something we'll kind of dive into, but it's just not something that we've done, that I've ever done. But it does look like a lot of fun. And these pickleball places are popping up everywhere in our region, everywhere. I mean, there's a massive facility being built in the Briar Creek area. I mean, these places are everywhere, but I love that Johnston County is getting one of these. If you live in Johnston County, like you deserve places like this, and I think it's fantastic. So if you live in Johnston County, go there, check it out, let us know how it is. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what it's like, but it is. I think it is a local place. All right, last story. I know this is kind of short tonight. I was on kind of a tight timeline, but I wanted to get some of these in, especially the inventory piece, because I thought that was kind of pertinent. Especially, at the beginning of the year, everyone always asks like, what do you think the market's going to be like this year? And obviously, no one's got a crystal ball, but I am hopeful that we will see inventory improvements this year, and that's why I wanted to do that big piece on the inventory. But so the hub at the RTP, we've covered this quite a bit actually in various videos, but the hub's going to transform the RTP area. One of the places I'm most excited about is this horseshoe section of the hub, and it's where a lot of these restaurants are going, and they're going to be opening up this little boutique bodega, which is this little kind of, I guess, small grocery store. I guess is what that means. I had to Google what a bodega was, because I wasn't 100% sure, outside of like what the definition was, like fresh produce, grab and go bites, baked goods. But I think Durham has something like this downtown. I forget what it's called. It's what is it? I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, it's in the heart of downtown Durham. It's like the only kind of grocery spot that they have. But I think this is cool, because when you think about the hub, they're going to have apartments. There's going to be people who are living there. Like, you need a place. And there's just so many people that are going to be working there too. Like, you've got a lot of office space, a lot of corporate space. People need a place other than a restaurant, maybe to just go get something really quick, check out, go back to the office. And so, yeah, I think, I thought this was pretty cool. I'm just truly excited about the hub. I'm probably most excited about Prime Steak. I think that's going to be a fantastic location. I'm really, really, really pumped about it. So, and I'm excited to see the future of RTP. Like, once this opens, what RTP looks like in the future as this kind of expands, and maybe as smaller hubs kind of pop up throughout RTP. I know we talked about that during one of our lives, kind of like the long-term vision of the Research Triangle Park. It's really exciting. So, but yeah, that is all I got tonight. I know it was a short one. I hate it so short. There was there was a lot of really good topics I wanted to cover, and I knew I wouldn't be able to fit them in. So I'm going to save those for next week when I got a little more time. But anyway, I hope y'all have a great weekend. Thank y'all for watching. I am Zach. If you are looking to buy or sell in real estate, we would love to be your real estate resource of choice. You can find our contact info below. My wife and I are a local real estate team here in the area. But I truly appreciate y'all watching, and I hope y'all have a good week. Bye, y'all.